This government is not addressing the most pressing need, and the number one responsibility of a government, Jamie, is to keep its Canadians safe. What I've seen over the last 7 years is the complete opposite. Favoring the criminals, reducing the protection for communities and those of the victims. It's appalling. It's got to end.
Hey gang, what's up? Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. The audacity of these Liberals. They're so obnoxious, overconfident. They're believing the polls they're paying for are accurate. They are not. Anyhow, they're turning Canadians away that drive great distances to listen to their platform at their creepy rallies, and they're turning them away. Our friends here at Western Standard have a great video interviewing a gentleman that drove hours to listen to creepy Mark Carney, our fake prime minister's platform, but he was refused. It's wild. Let's check this out. We've got a bunch of other videos we'll check out after this, but this is what we're leading off with. Watch this. They're turning people away. How ridiculous. So obnoxious.
Sir?
My name's Wade Collins.
Wade Collins.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for chatting with us. What brings you out here to the Mark Carney rally tonight?
I drove from Sylvan Lake to hear what this man had to say.
Sure.
And so I got here about 4:30, and I went in and they asked me if I registered, and I hadn't registered because I didn't realize I had to register. Anyway, and so I said I just came here to hear what this man had to say because I haven't voted yet and I wanted to make an informed decision.
Sounds very reasonable.
So they wouldn't let me in, period. And so I said, well, I guess if you can't make room for one individual that drove here to hear what this man has to say, that pretty much tells me who I'm going to vote for. So, yeah.
That's quite a story for you to drive all this way and to get turned away. I'm sorry to hear that. These are the people that we are the constituents, and they're public servants at the end of the day. So what will you go home and tell your friends?
Well, I'll tell them that apparently you were supposed to get an email saying that you could register. And so I asked them, and I asked all of the security people that were standing around if anybody knew the answer to the question, do you only get an email if you are already a member? Mm-hmm. And nobody could answer me, not even the guy at the door. And so I'm like, well, if you don't want any new voters, what's the point? Like, aren't you looking for new voters? Like, so, and I'm the kind of guy, I'd rather hear it with my own ears coming out of someone's mouth than listen to all the media. And that didn't seem to help. So once again, I guess I know where I'm voting.
So where will you be voting?
I will be voting for Pierre Poilievre. I was at his event last night in Edmonton, and
Quite a turnout there.
it was awesome, and I really liked what they all had to say. And there was no registration, there was no show your identification, there was no email, QR code, there was none of that. You walked in, whoever you were, they looked you up and down, and in you went. What a difference.
That's incredible. That is such a difference. Well, thank you for sharing your story, and all the best to you as you travel back to Sylvan Lake, and thanks again for talking with us.
Thanks, and I'm a subscriber. I
Amazing.
read your every day. I read your newsletter.
That's wonderful to hear.
Okay.
Thank you for supporting independent media. We're trying to get both sides of the story here for everyone.
Independent media is the only way to go.
Yes, gang. So check out Western Standard. Their channel's great. Subscribe to that one. So we see that the Liberals, creepy Mark Carney, is turning away Canadians that want to hear his platform. What is up? I believe it's overconfidence in their polls. Let's take a look at one of the more recent polls, and then I'm going to show you the polls that I've got that don't show the same numbers as whatever bullshit these guys are selling. Let's take a look at these fake poll numbers, then we'll look at some real poll numbers.
But when we've seen some of the other polls that have been coming out, the online polls in particular, these weekly polls that give us a little bit of a a starting point for every week to look at how the trend lines are moving, really haven't seen much movement at all. Behind those day-to-day fluctuations that we've seen in some of those surveys, it seems to be the same solid trend that the Liberals are leading the Conservatives by usually around 6, 7, 8 points. The New Democrats are below 10% in the polls, and while it does change from day to day, there doesn't actually seem to be a developing trend line that we can say is heading into these last 2.5 weeks of the campaign.
Okay, so if there's not been much movement in the top line numbers, what about other factors like leadership impressions, trust? Are you seeing any movement there?
We're seeing that Mark Carney's numbers are holding up pretty well because that was the big question at the beginning of the campaign, whether they would. He had high positive ratings, pretty low negative ratings at the outset, and we've seen that those are holding firm. We've seen numbers from Abacus data that shows that Mark Carney is still above water in negative versus positive impressions. Polling by the Angus Reid Institute also showing that there's a big gap between the people who like him and who dislike him. And for Pierre Poilievre, we're not really seeing an indication that his image is improving. We're not also seeing that it's getting much worse. There is some disagreement there in terms of the polls, but he is still more disliked than liked. And we're not seeing an indication that he is about to take off in the polls, that his numbers have improved so much that the Conservatives should have hope that in the next coming days their voting intentions will catch up. So it still looks like a pretty stagnant campaign when it comes to public opinion, that where people were in those first 7 days of the campaign, it is still where they are today.
One thing that I agree with here is that Canadians' opinions really haven't changed during this campaign. I don't think many Liberal votes have changed. Those guys are like on the Kool-Aid, they're going to vote that way. However, I've got these polls that reflect a much different number. Let's take a look.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
All right, gang, we're going to take a look at some of the stuff that we have on my channel. I put up a couple of polls. So, we've got 1,900 people that responded to this one, and we've got Jagmeet Singh at 0%, Carney at 1%, Poilievre at 97%, and 2% of people don't want to tell you how they're voting or won't be voting at all. Okay, ran a very similar poll again. This time, 3,700 people turned out. And we've got 97% of people going to vote Conservative, 1% for the Liberals, 0% for the NDP, 0. And 1% of people say they don't vote. So those are the polls that I've got. And again, I don't promote these. Last poll we'll take a look at. First one I put up, 2,700 people took part, 98% Conservative, 0% Liberal, and 1% still undecided. So wherever these other polls that are being paid for are getting their numbers, who are they calling? Who are they communicating with to get these, ridiculous numbers? I mean, I understand my polls are ridiculous as well, but come on. Like, you just can't trust the polls, guys. Is there anybody else out there that's a Larry Brock fan? Put up your hand. I'm a Larry Brock fan, and I've been missing him. Like, I miss him in Parliament. He's really sharp there at the committee meetings, all that stuff. Anyhow, he and MP Jamie Schmalley are discussing the Liberal agenda, the platform for their gun control. They're going to take every rifle away from every hunter is the plan. That's what it sounds like. Let's check these guys out.
The government snuck in an amendment to their firearms legislation, I think surprising many, especially on our side of the aisle, that talked about changing the definition. Now, before it was going after certain pieces of firearms, now they want to include hunting rifles, some hunting rifles in this definition. So kind of the veil is off now, right? This one time was called conspiracy theory, that the Liberals actually want to target hunters and sport shooters, is becoming a massive reality right now, and for no reason. The problem is the gangland shootings. The problem is a lot of their crime bills. But somehow, for an easy political win, maybe, they're going after the law-abiding firearms community. Again.
Because, to use another analogy, it's that low-hanging fruit from the tree. far better to create this narrative that they're trying to keep communities safe by going after the easiest of targets, the millions of individuals across this country who have taken all the appropriate training courses, have taken all and obtained all the appropriate licenses and engage in hunting for recreation, for sustenance. Let's not even forget about the indigenous population who has an absolute right for sustenance purposes to hunt. So do they get caught up into this new interpretation of the legislation the government is trying to advance? They are missing the target repeatedly. And the target is they are focusing on the wrong element.
Absolutely.
It is not these individuals that are creating menace on our streets. It is not these individuals who are engaging in drive-by shootings where innocent people are being picked off. We just heard the statistics released earlier this week that Canada jumped substantially in 1 year in terms of the gang-related homicides. These gang-related individuals are not using long firearms. They're not using shotguns. They are using those pistols that are illegally being smuggled across our borders. The government is continually failing to address the problem head on.
But this is how the government operates. This government of Justin Trudeau, it divides the population into certain segments and turns the larger population on them. Remember, in 2015, after that election, it was rich versus poor, east versus west. And in 2021, it became vaccinated versus unvaccinated. And now it's becoming the legal firearms community versus kind of people who don't have firearms, right?
This government is not addressing the most pressing need. And the number one responsibility of a government, Jamie, is to keep its Canadians safe. What I've seen over the last 7 years is the complete opposite. Favoring the criminals, reducing the protection for communities and those of victims. It's appalling. It's got to end.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
Hey gang, what's up? Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. Larry Brock, one of our favorites to watch, is battling the Attorney General. I think Larry Brock is going to be the next Attorney General, but now he's facing off against Arif Virani, the current Justice Minister, and this guy is a clown. Let's take a look. They're going to battle here on the House Commons floor, and then they're going to battle in committee. And wait till we get to the committee meeting. It gets out of hand. Let's take a look. Let's take a listen. Larry Brock is a man on fire.
The honourable member for Brantford-Brent.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister has lost confidence of his cabinet, his caucus, and all Canadians as he desperately clings to power. Yesterday, the Liberals dropped their fall economic statement and literally ran out of the House. A $62 billion deficit, missing their target by a whopping 55%. The end result? Canadians are now paying more on debt interest charges than on health care. When will this Prime Minister end the misery, call a carbon tax election, so Conservatives can finally fix what they have broken?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I want to take the opportunity to inform the Justice critic that, in fact, in that fall economic statement, he would have seen a series of measures that address community safety in our communities across the country. He would have seen measures that crack down on auto theft. He would have seen stricter bail and sentencing provisions. He would have seen provisions in the sex offender registries to get tough on child sex predators. He would have seen securing our borders to provide confidence to our American counterparts, cracking down on money laundering and terrorist financing. These are all measures that we all have an interest in promoting, passing, and getting funded in this country to keep Canadians safe.
The honourable member for Brantford-Brent.
After 9 years of this Prime Minister's economic vandalism and inflationary spending, he has added more to the debt than all previous Prime Ministers combined. Now Canadians are paying more. Our national debt now sits at $1.24 trillion, an astronomical number that our future generations will have to deal with. Canada's promise of powerful paychecks, affordable housing, safe streets have all been shattered under the NDP Liberals. This Prime Minister has lost confidence of his caucus, the House, and Canadians. When will he call an immediate carbon tax election?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, that member is a former Crown attorney. He knows in terms of keeping communities safe, it starts with addressing the prolific amount of guns that are in our communities. What's in that fall economic statement? $597 million to take weapons off of our streets. What else is in there? Mr. Speaker, that member knows that organized criminality is a problem in Canada from coast to coast to coast. What we are doing with organized criminality is ensuring tougher penalties for financial crimes, cracking down on money laundering, and cracking down on terrorist financing. You get at the cause of the problem when you address the money flow. That's what we're doing in the fall economic statement. We wish we could have their support.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
This is the best part of this video. This committee is ridiculous, guys. The Liberals, James Maloney, Chris Brittle, whatever his foolish name is, this guy's a loser and a distraction for Canadians. He is a bum. And the chair of this committee, Lena Diab, well, she's got issues and I think a crush on Larry Brock a little bit. It's kind of funny, it's not really, but Arif Rani has no answers for Larry Brock. Let's take a look.
Mr. Brock, please.
Minister, last Friday night, as Canada's second largest city burned and was under siege.
Yes, Mr. Biddle?
On the issue of relevancy, I know Mr. Brock
Why
was
don't you let me
outraged.
ask the question?
Mr. Brock was outraged last week when we were here.
My God.
He said, and filibustered for an hour when there was a suggestion that we may ask questions of Mr. Vierson unrelated to the topic at hand. This is unrelated to Bill S-13. Yes, relevancy is within the standing orders.
Okay.
This is within the standing orders. If Mr. Brock can keep to his questions to the legislation, I know he insisted that we do the same thing 2 weeks ago. Mr. Brock 2 weeks ago would have been very upset at Mr. Brock today. So I'm hoping if he can keep his remarks focused pursuant to the standing orders.
Okay, so thank you for that, Mr. Biddle. Relevancy is definitely within the standing orders, but I don't think Mr. Brock has even had a chance to.
Of course not. This
to
is Biddle's
even
game
start
plan.
with the. So I'm going to start you back at 6 minutes, Mr.
Thank
Brock.
you. Appreciate that, Chair.
And we'll let you continue. And I know you've been here as long as I have been here, and you're very well versed.
And it's the members' time.
So
yes.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Minister, last Friday night, as Canada's second largest city burned and was under siege by pro-Hamas terrorists rioting in the streets, damaging property, inciting their vile messaging of their extermination of the Jewish state, all the while your leader, Justin Trudeau, danced away at a Taylor Swift concert, sharing friendship bracelets with other fans. You, as Canada's chief legal officer, remained silent. Why, sir, did you develop, or why did you display a lack of leadership and courage in calling out this extreme anti-Semitic hate and violence?
So, Minister, please proceed. Yes.
Well, I reject that categorization, and I also reject what happened on Friday night in terms of its appropriateness. What happened on Friday night was a disgusting and appalling act of lawlessness and unlawful behavior by people who would seek to sow havoc and chaos on our streets.
Minister would have appreciated you calling that out at the time, but you remained silent. I'll move on to my second question.
And I referenced that in my response.
Sorry, Minister, this is my time. A few weeks ago, November the 11th, during a bail compliance check, Toronto police officers...
Can you stop the watch for a sec? Mr. Biddle, yes?
Again, I think the time was given to Mr. Brock to bring it back to S13. He has not done that and now has moved into another question unrelated to the topic. I know Indigenous rights are very important to him. And he should move back to that topic, as Mr. Brock was insistent last week that we stick to the topic and Liberals stick to the topic. I'm curious why Conservatives don't hold themselves to the same standard.
So I mean, relevancy is very much as the base of the issue. So I'm going to have Mr. Brock now. We will start the watch again. Mr. Brock, just be careful.
I'll get to relevancy.
Okay, just
thank you.
Please go ahead.
We support S13. A few weeks ago, November the 11th, during a bail compliance check, Toronto police officers found themselves... Madam Chair, this is becoming ridiculous, and this is a pattern that Mr. Biddle continually does at these committee meetings.
Mr. Biddle?
Well, the pattern is its relevancy. This is legislation. Mr. Brock acknowledged that the
Let
standing orders
me ask the question,
again.
Biddle.
It's Mr. Biddle, Mr. Brock. We show each other respect in this room. And again,
Like
he insisted last week that we stick to the topic at hand, and he's not doing what he insisted that we do last week. So I hope that Mr. Brock of a week ago will comport himself in the same way that he insisted a week ago that we should comport ourselves.
Mr. Brock, I'm going to
Thank you.
ask you to proceed before
Toronto police officers found themselves in the middle of an active shootout between rival groups. 16 firearms were seized, all stolen and smuggled from the U.S. 23 people, including a young offender with 3 firearm prohibitions, was arrested. In response, the Toronto Police Association, the Police Association of Ontario, and the Ontario Provincial Police Association, representing 35,000 officers across the province, we're calling on the government for immediate bail reform. This is the federal government. Their calls to action included tough on crime measures that ensure repeat violent offenders are kept in custody, imposing stricter penalties for bail violations, and shifting resources away from ineffective gun bans to focus on combating illegal firearms smuggling.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
This isn't the first time.
Member of Parliament Maloney.
Look, Mr. Brock is entitled to his time. There's 2 points. One, he understands the importance of being allowed to ask his questions, a point he's made now more than once. But it's also important that he allows the minister the opportunity to answer the question, which he didn't do on his first question. And now he's asked 2 questions that have absolutely nothing to do with the topic we're here to discuss. So I think it is incumbent on you, Madam Chair, to get Mr. Brock to stay within the realm of relevance. I know that Mr. Brock thinks relevance is subjective, but it's not. It's objective, and it's for you to determine whether his questions are appropriate or not. And both of these questions are inappropriate and then far outside the scope of what we're here today for.
It would be very helpful if Mr. Maloney allowed me to actually ask the question, which he interrupted halfway through. Madam Chair?
So Mr. Brock, you've got 3 minutes. We've stopped the
By
clock,
my
by the
count,
way,
I've
each and
got- I
every
still
time.
have
A
4
point
minutes.
of order. No, 3 minutes and 29. And we've stopped it every time, but I'm gonna take a minute break. So just give me a break for a minute. In the bill that we are studying, so the clock will go back now.
I intend on doing that with the 6 minutes that I have available. Chair, thank you. Time to start it?
Yes, please.
This isn't the first time the TPA has raised alarms. Minister, in the House today, you proudly stated we delivered bail reform. According to premiers of provinces and territories and presidents of police associations across this country, they unanimously claim that Bill C-48 is an abject failure. Instead of blaming provincially appointed judges and justices of the peace, when will you finally toughen up our bail regime to keep our communities safe?
Okay, I'm going to allow the minister to please respond to that, and if you wish to bring it back to what we're studying.
Well, I object that categorization, and I'll refer the member to 3 points. The first is that the work of the Toronto Police Services is heroic, and I applaud their courage. The second point I would make is that there are 700 less police officers in Toronto now than there were in 2015 when we first got elected, which is a problem for the municipality and a problem for the province. The third point I would make is that that same TPS letter actually referred to the penalties that are involved for things like gun smuggling and gun trafficking. In preparing for this appearance, I actually noted that in Bill, if I can finish.
No, thank you, Minister. This
Point
is
of
my
order,
time.
Madam Chair, if he's allowed to ask the question,
This is
the
my
minister's
time,
allowed to
Madam
answer
Chair.
it.
He's answered the question. He said he had 3 points. I gave him the opportunity to raise those 3 points. This is
He
the
wasn't
member's
gonna- he
time.
wasn't finished the
I'm
third point,
reclaiming my time.
You're good?
Thank you.
Point.
Oh, he didn't finish his. Please go ahead.
The TPS called for enhanced penalties for gun smuggling and gun trafficking. We enacted those penalties
Thank you, Minister.
and enhancements in
Moving
Bill
on.
C-21, which
Moving
that
on.
member
Thank
voted
you,
against.
Minister. This is my time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Yeah, I will. We know that
Brown.
Indigenous people are more likely to be victims of crime. This has been reiterated in numerous government studies, such as the MMIWG and the TRC, and the statistics don't seem to have changed much since these reports were made public. In 2022, StatsCan reported that nearly 2/3, 62%, of Indigenous people have experienced at least one sexual or physical assault after the age of 15. Will you, Minister, commit to reinforcing the Canadian Victim Bill of Rights to better protect Indigenous victims of crime and uphold the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People Act?
Minister?
I absolutely commit to ensuring that people are protected from things like sexual assault, including Indigenous, and I applaud the member opposite for noting that Indigenous people are both overrepresented as both
Will
accused
you
and as
reinforce the
victims
Canadian
in our
Victim
system.
Bill of
Madam
Rights?
Chair, if I could finish my response,
Yes,
please.
please, Minister. Yeah.
So, and I applaud the notification and the recognition that Indigenous people are overrepresented in our system, both as
Will
accused and
you
as
reinforce the Victim Bill of Rights, Minister? It's a simple question, yes or no?
View of the
The
Canadian
answer is
Victim
no.
Bill of
Thank you.
Rights.
Would the minister consider a similar approach to victims' rights?
We have 30 seconds left.
Finish my response, Madam Chair.
29 seconds now.
Well,
and
Madam Chair,
I hear a number of
Madam
points
Chair,
of order.
Madam Chair,
so-
if I could raise an issue, please. Generally, when we pose a
Can't
question,
make a point of order in your own time, Madam Chair.
Actually, I was at
No,
another
Madam-
committee and they
Madam
made
Chair.
that very clear. It's true.
generally you afford a witness the same amount of time it takes for the question to be put.
That's not being done. That's
is not being
that's my
done
fault here. You're taking a lot more time to ask, and you're
Well, the
not
reason I'm
allowing
taking
the
a lot
minister.
more time to ask
You're
is
not
that the
allowing
Liberal
the
members
minister
are
the time
constantly
to respond.
interrupting. I constantly have to go back to the original question, repeat myself. That's what's happening here.
So,
I can do it in 10 seconds, Madam Chair.
listen, we had stopped the clock. I'm not going to keep stopping the clock. We stopped it at 29. Can we please continue with that now?
I'm moving on to another question.
The minister
Before
said he
you do,
hasn't finished
Minister,
answering
have
the
you
question.
responded to that last question?
Madam Chair, we put on reverse bonuses for bail for intimate partner violence, which assists Indigenous women. That
Thank
was
you.
Bill
The answer is
C-75
no.
and Bill C-48.
Would the minister consider a similar approach to victims' rights as being proposed in this bill? Specifically, will the minister reinforce the primacy clause in the Canadian Victim Bill of Rights to ensure the rights of victims are considered, upheld, and supported by courts and other criminal justice professionals in every interaction with the criminal justice system? Yes or no?
Okay, Mr. Brock, your time is up, but I am going to allow equal time for the minister to respond as that last question, which was about 23 seconds.
Review that happened, I believe, at this committee 2 years ago of the Canadian Victims Bill of Rights. There was a lot of healthy and proposals that were suggested at that point, and we are always looking to ensure that victims' voices are empowered and that their rights are given primacy in our system.
Thank you, Minister. That didn't take that long, so we appreciate that. So,
I think our leader, Trudeau, I don't think I've ever heard him say a true word.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
I know this place is where I am.
Check this out. Where's Randy, guys? Look up. Is he up there? You up there blowing a squirrel, Randy? We're gonna take a stroll up. So, what do you think? Hey gang, Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.